Welcome to the Hope Over Coffee podcast, the place where we believe that life is better when we know and are known by others. We're here to stir your soul, ignite your passions, and help you find the hope that you've been searching for. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the conversation as we dive into topics that matter most. We are excited to share this journey with you, and we hope that you will join us every step of the way. Welcome back to the Hope Over Coffee podcast. I am your host, Jared OJ. And this week, not even a week. I don't do weeks anymore. I do months. I do like one recording a month now. Life is a little busy. But in this episode, I get to introduce a guy that I've actually met you twice. And man, I love your stuff. So I hope you can explain some of that. And I think you've shared your story from stage before. But to be honest, I can't remember it at the moment. Sorry about that. But I'd like to introduce to everyone Mr. Sean Emory. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, busy is the name of the game right now.
Yeah. I appreciate that you have your schedule posted on your website. That actually kind of helped me pick a day. I don't know if it helps you at all because you might have filled that spot, but having your calendar up, it did help me a little bit.
My wife is my administrative genius, and she runs all that, and I don't even know. Like, I wake up.
All good. You have an excellent website, by the way.
Thank you. She is awesome.
So, if you don't mind, because I know what you do because I've seen you before. Can you share who you are and what you do, just for those people that don't know what you do?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-part question.
All right.
Because there's what I do and why I do it, and those things are linked, and they can't be separated.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. So what I do is I go by perception artist, and so I travel all over and I do a show, and the show is sort of a combination of three different kind of main elements. There's a little bit of illusion, and there's a little bit of psychology, where it's not like hypnotism, but it's about reading people, sort of manipulating how someone sees something. And then there's the third part of that is stunts. So things you might see David Blaine do. Hence the poster behind me, right? So, and those are real. And so in a nutshell, it's a show where it's a performance. It's all stuff that I've created, my wife and I have created over the span of years. And the second part of the question is why we do it. And so the show is not a bunch of magic tricks or a bunch of, it's not like a show and then we go, all right, I'm awesome. See you guys later. Or It's not like a show and then we talk about a message at the end. It's kind of interwoven.
Nice.
And
yes.
So
I did pick up on that.
I am a missionary and an evangelist. And so the show, all that is just a tool.
Yes.
So it's just a tool to earn the ear of an audience in order to share the gospel.
Nice. Yeah. And I did pick up on that during, and that's what I've tried to give little teasers in other episodes that you're coming on. And I'm like, his show, I don't want to call it a show because I don't feel like it's just a show, but I didn't know what else to call it.
I don't know either, man. Like, because people are, I get the same jokes. People are like, "Can you make my this so and so disappear?" And I'm like, "No, that's murder."
What's that?
Like, you're thinking of
yeah. They can disappear, but they won't come back.
I tell people, you're more likely to see me pull a hat out of a rabbit, which is a lot more violent.
Yeah.
It's just not quite that.
Yeah. Cool. And again, like I said, I'm going to get talking about your story a little bit from the stage. I don't remember a lot of it. Sorry, there's a lot that.
No. Well, we've got a few. We've got a few, and we almost have to pick what part of the testimony. And sometimes, honestly, it's just preaching. It's just preaching the gospel, and so we don't necessarily have like a kind of a one track thing where it's like, okay, we don't ever go into autopilot. Right. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know which story it was.
Well, one part I didn't really. You talked about a string. That was the latest one that I saw. You talked about a string. That was amazing. But I'm just kind of curious. What did you land where you are to do this ministry? Like, what can I ask? What transpired to send you down this path?
So that actually answers both questions, because that's one of those testimony stories that I would share normally or sometimes. All right, I'm going to give you the kind of the short story long. Right, so I started when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Kentucky. My wife and I are both Kentuckians, and no offense to my cousins, but there's not a lot going on, right? And so I thought that I wanted to be an artist. Growing up, I was really good, had a lot of talent. And the key detail here is I grew up with a very severe speech impediment. And so I couldn't actually communicate very well at all until I was about 16. That's why I wanted to be an artist, because you don't have to talk. You can just draw. I had a talent for it. I was pretty good. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is simple. And so we found out later that it wasn't a speech impediment, because, I'd seen speech therapists, pathologists, doctors. No one could figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. We found out actually a few years ago that it was a condition called apraxia, which is more of a neurological thing.
Okay.
And so anyway, with that said, when I was 16, I woke up one day and my talent for art was just gone. Like, it just disappeared. And I was in AP art, and I remember I was working on my final project, which was this. It was a pencil sketch of landscape, and so it's it's a lot of detail, trees, leaves, all that.
Right.
It's kind of like a gargantuan task, right?
Right.
And I went in the next day, and it was like stick figures. Like, I don't know what was going on, but whatever it was, my brain, my hand could not. It was gone.
That's crazy.
And so, you don't often hear about God taking away a talent, but I believe that's what He did. And so that was a rough week. I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, that was my whole identity was wrapped up in that.
Really?
And it's like if I felt trapped kind of before in my own prison of silence, now I felt even more like that.
So you felt like you lost your outlet to even express yourself completely.
Yeah, because that was it. That was, I had my whole future mapped out. Like, I wanted to do that. And so, anyway, that week when I was 16, I remember thinking, if I'm being honest with myself, I was only doing that because it's all that I could do. So it was almost, I was settling.
Right.
For this, because this is all I have. And the thought, and I'm not going to say like I didn't hear an audible voice or anything like that, but the thought popped in my head: if I truly believe that He's powerful, and He was the power, like He could empower me to do whatever it is He would call me to do, but He let me pick. What would I pick? Like if it was up to me, what would I choose to do?
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought about it and I was like, well, I would want to do the craziest thing to get the most attention for the most amount of people. And then I would want to like boldly share the gospel. Like, and David Blaine, came out with his first TV special this time. I don't know how old your audience is, but I might be dating them.
So, like 30s, 40s is normal.
Early 2000s, So, and he was doing crazy stuff. And I remember thinking, God, I would do that. And I had no idea how to do it. I didn't know there was such thing as a magic trick, like book or any of that. Like, that was totally foreign. But I was like, I would do that. And so for 9 months, from that day forward, for 9 months, I got a pencil and paper. I worked out like, here's how I think an illusion might work. And again, I don't have any like resources here. You know, I don't have money, and I don't have friends in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So 9 months, worked it out. Like here's how I think I would do it. I practiced it for 9 months. I didn't tell a single person, total secret. And 9 months later, at my school cafeteria in high school, 16 years old, I stood up at my table and I said, "Hey, would you guys like to see something crazy?" And I said it just like that. It was kind of slow and broken. What's nutty about this is I don't know how, but I was talking normally. And that was like the first time. And my school went bonkers. Nuts. I was on top of my lunch table by the end of the lunch period. My entire high school lunch period were screaming gathered around me. It was a crazy illusion. Looking back, that did look like witchcraft. So, like, you know, because it's like, oh, Sean is talking normally. Also, he's a sorcerer, right? So,
he conjured up voice and a trick.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, I went to the principal's office. Principals, you know, my called my teachers in. I mean, it was literally a whole ordeal that day for my entire school.
This
problem is I didn't know any other things. I just knew that one thing, so I just did it over and over. And then it just became clear to me in that moment, like, okay, I think, all right, God. Apparently you were not. Yeah, you were not messing around.
That's crazy. So, were you a believer? I mean, obviously, because you were saying that you want to share the gospel. So how?
I love this question.
So how does that play into it? Where did you become a believer? At what point in this whole story?
Disclaimer: I am a nerd. So I am in seminary. I'm a Bible guy. Like, so
okay.
Might be more theology than you wanted to know. But the way I break it down is whenever I was 9 years old, that's when justification happened. So I heard the gospel, and the weight of sin fell on me, and I was like, I need Jesus as Savior. All right?
Yeah.
Totally clear. However, sanctification took its sweet time. And so it's like, I had the pieces, but it was a struggle to put it together. And one of the big reasons for that is it was a lack of discipleship, a lack of a consistent church teaching growing up. And so, yeah, all that to say, when I was about 19, I went to college. I studied all the religions. That was I was a double major, religions and theater, so I had no friends in either department, and so like everyone hated me. so I studied all the religions. I read the Quran, I read the Bhagavad Gita, which is Hinduism. I read the Tao Te Ching, which is Taoism. That's when sanctification really hit, because that's when the gospel pieces sort of became really clear to me, and I understood that every other religion is a works-based religion. I have to work harder, and if I work hard enough, I'm good enough, and if I'm good enough, I get the reward. And the Bible says no matter how hard you work, you can never be good enough.
Yeah.
You need a miracle.
Right.
So that's where, I kind of transitioned from like, oh, I've been working for it, like I've been practicing illusions and pickpocketing and all this stuff. And the Bible's telling me, when it comes to your soul, when it comes to spirituality, Jesus is the one who does the work, and it's just faith. That work comes after.
Right.
Work is the evidence of his work in my heart. So
that's awesome.
There you go. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Because I can relate. I had my salvation experience when I was a senior in high school, and I missed out on the whole discipleship thing. Man, it wasn't for like decades. That sanctification process was longer.
It was
longer. No, yeah, it was. Man, I was stuck in addictions and just all kinds of things that didn't happen the right way. But I am a big proponent right now of pushing discipleship. which, I mean, honestly, this podcast actually kind of came through that process of just trying to get the word out to other men that, hey, you need guys in your life, and you need to you don't need to. We need to talk about stuff. We got to quit hiding things, and let's get in some safe communities and talk about the real thing that's going on inside our lives. So I am 100% on board with anyone that wants to incentivize discipleship.
I'm with you. Speaking my language.
And also along those lines, just kind of give you some of my story of this podcast. Is one of those things like feeling like God told you to do something and totally like, God, this ain't me, because I'm just a quiet guy. I don't want to be in front of anybody. What are you talking about? And I really felt like during COVID, when we were working from home and I had to have a lot of online meetings, I had bought a microphone because I'm a nerd and I'm extra, and I want to have nice good things to have meetings with, right? And when I got it and I set up and we had other we did small groups. I was doing a discipleship group with Ren. You never met Ren.
I don't think I did.
No, he was in between your trips for our church. But we were doing a discipleship group with the youth pastor at that point in time and some of the kids, and I joked around playing with the background, and I literally put this background up, and I'm like, man, it looks like you're in a podcast. And even before I showed it, I felt like I was like, hey, you're gonna use that microphone for something more than just meetings. I'm like, what? No, that's, I don't know what you mean by that. And a couple months later, I launched the website that I have, and in my fear, I all I did was post journals, just reading scripture, doing my journal. I'd post it out there for people to read, and I tell people, I really felt like, I didn't hear him, but I heard him. He was like, "That's not what I told you to do." Okay. He was like, "No, I told you you're going to use that microphone to do something." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to start the podcast." As terrifying as it is, I'm going to start it. And I tell anybody that starts listening to podcasts, start at the most recent episode, work your way backwards. And when you can't stand listening to me anymore, because it was bad, it's been a journey from the very first one to now. Just turn it off. It's fine. You probably heard whatever you needed to hear in those couple episodes. It's all right. So, yeah, I just
were you influenced by any podcasts that you were listening to, and you were like, I really like that, like how they do that?
No. Matter of fact, when I first started, I did, I'm a nerd. I started doing research. I like digging in, kind of like you said, I like digging into stuff and trying to find all the ways the world's doing it. How do podcasts become popular? How do you do this, that, and the other? How does all this work? And I started doing it, and the more I tried to do it the cultural way, the worse it got. And it was like going back to saying, God giving you the gift to do what He called you to do. Did you trust Him? And I finally got to the point I was like, I gotta quit doing this. I have social media accounts, but I'm not on them. Every now and then I can post through a different app to put something out there, but I don't go look at it. If anybody ever messages me through one of those, I'm never going to see it. But just finally realizing, like, just do what I told you to do, and I will take it as far as it needs to go. And here I am talking to you. Like, you're really the first one that I've gotten to talk to and have a conversation with doesn't live in my area. So, So this is, and like, I had one, I recorded one 2 weeks ago, and there's a guy I know of. I've seen him, met him, I've talked to him just a tiny little bit before, but I didn't know his story. So getting to that point of branching out and just do what you told me to do, and don't worry about the likes, don't worry about the shares. But at the same time, I'm like, if you like this, share it with somebody. It might impact their life to make a difference. So, Yeah. So
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe.
now it's going to be great. It's going to be
See how many
great.
hot takes we get.
But, and that's another thing of like getting into this of the fear of being canceled. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm, which I've kind of gotten over that because I'm going to do what he told me to do. But at the same time,
Right.
Anybody I bring on or anything I do, it's more like we're just having a conversation that just happens to sometimes involve Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, those stories are impactful that they help other people.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could quote it right, but it's getting our stories out so that to let other people know that what we went through what we went through so we can help other people go through what they're going through.
Yeah.
And that's just where it's landed. That's where it's at. So I just keep going.
Yep.
Even though I don't feel like qualified or this face should be on YouTube, but it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, I relate. Like, I'm not an expert at everything, and that's something that I've had to learn. Is I'm just not good at social media. I'm not good at a lot of those things, and so my wife is. You know, and then I actually recently just took a team on mission trip to Nicaragua, and it's like I hope this doesn't sound like arrogant, like, you know, I know how it should work, but I've had a lot of bad leaders, you know, in my life. Like, I've just seen a lot of bad leaders, and there was just something that I've always thought that, and maybe I read it in a book somewhere, I don't know, but it's just one of those things that a bad leader makes followers, a good leader makes leaders. And so,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but at the same time, okay, you give you a little more insight to what God's made me through. And I'm very encouraged by the word you just said.
good.
So thank you.
That's awesome.
No, I'm part of another discipleship group right now. It's me and 5 other guys, and my heart in that is always to make sure, even though we have this core group that I want to last until he comes back and takes us home, or we die. But we always make sure that we're facing outwards and investing in at least one guy on the outside, so that we can teach that guy to find his group of 4 guys who can be a lifelong group, so they can heal. So it's obviously discipleship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really feel like this word of God telling me that you're going to lead leaders.
Yeah.
And like, I try to explain that in the group, but it was like, it sounds like I'm just saying we're making disciples, but at the same time, right, I want to lead leaders that can lead leaders. It's not just leading the one guy. It's how far is that ripple going to go out into the next.
Yeah. So that's, yeah.
Oh, it's crazy you said that word to me, but is it really crazy? Good. It's not. It's just an encouragement. It's way smarter than I am. So
I'm glad that helps. I think you can say stuff like that, and your brain kind of tries to think through, well, what does that look like? And I'll just give an example, because I think it helps to see how it's applied in real life. But, you know, I was on this mission trip, and in the past, you know, I've been on mission trips where there's a leader, and the leader just kind of, we're all just kind of following the one leader, right? And it's, what I noticed is the same thing happens in a lot of churches. This is one of my hot takes. There we go. All right, you're about to lose listeners, probably.
No, I don't think so.
Well, the same thing happens in a lot of churches. You get somebody who, I mean, we've all heard of the raging narcissist kind of archetype, right? Is a powerful church planner. And so, but what ends up happening is the leader doesn't know how to delegate. Yeah. They don't know what they're bad at.
Right.
You're not good at it.
Right.
And so, for example, on this mission trip, there was a group of guys. So we only had 5 guys on the trip, and like, I don't know, 10 women. And so I was in the minority, you know, but I'm the one leading the trip. My wife's with me. She's kind of helping with leading the ladies. And so, but I went to these guys and I said, you know, hey, in 30 minutes, you guys are going to leave. You're going to go to this men's rehab center, which is rough. And I'm not going with you. And so I literally 30 minutes before I just threw it on them.
Mhm.
I'd known about it for much longer, but I was like, I wanted to throw it on them.
Yeah.
So that they couldn't come up with a plan, so that they would have to rely on the Holy Spirit. And so that's what I did. I said, Greg and Aaron, they're the two student pastors that work with me. You guys are in charge. Sam, Parker, they were younger guys. I said, defer to them.
Mm-hmm.
If they ask you to pray, pray. If they ask you to lead, lead. Do whatever it takes. And I can't wait to hear how it goes later tonight. Right?
As terrifying as that sounds, if I was in that situation, that's amazing. And as I process through it, like, yeah, you're teaching them they do have to be dependent on. Yeah, no, I like it.
And if I'm confident in you, you don't get to be not confident in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that goes a long way. So, but what we see often in a lot of churches is you'll have a student like me who says, I want to build a platform ministry where, on social media, or, I want to go on TV and do this or do that. And I want to do it as a ministry. Yeah. Right. And what very often happens is the church stewards that person to work at a church.
Right. And
that's not bad. But we take people who are evangelists and we make them door greeters.
Yeah.
So it's
stifling their gift.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that's just over time. That's really God's used that, because I was the recipient of that for years. So.
Well, and to not counter, but I think add to with me, and not saying that I'm super special, but we are all special. We're all unique.
Very special,
to where you don't feel like you fit in any box that's available.
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't. And you wind up doing podcasts and leading groups that don't fit in a box.
Yeah.
And still being hopefully just as impactful, because you love to hear the stories that it does make somebody feel good, or it makes them change their mind. Because literally the whole hope over coffee thought is choosing Jesus over something else is the ultimate. I'd rather have him than sit here and sip the coffee, but at the same time, thinking about the stirring of a soul. I want to be a kickstart that stirs something in someone else, so that they can go find their gifts, so that they can go do something that's not saying there's anything wrong with a door greeter, but there's so much that we can go do.
Yes, there's a lot. Yeah, and I don't know that many churches know how to steward that. So, like mine.
But no, I was going to say, I think there's some churches that are good at that evangelism and bringing them in and just getting them there. And then there's other churches that are good of once they're there, they can turn them into finding their gifts and then sending them out. But it's getting the church that can do both together, I think, is a unicorn.
Yes. Great way of putting it. Yeah. I think that's been my wife and I, that's been our biggest struggle in ministry is getting people to stop caring so much about the magic show or whatever you want to call it. Like I won't do hardly any events where the gospel isn't preached. Because I'm not called to be an entertainer. I'm not called to just add to the fun, right? It doesn't mean I have to preach it. It's just somebody's got to.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to go on stage or if I'm going to be in an event, I need to hear the gospel there at some point. And if I don't, it's just a party. It's a pizza party.
Right.
So
absolutely. So you're an evangelist that just happens to have the tool belt of illusion. Because I think back to.
I'm not good at anything else, so that's what.
I think back to a previous job I had, and there were sometimes there were some life changes that were coming up, and one of my supervisors were trying to like push me in this direction and they're trying to be helpful, and I appreciated it, but at the same time I was like, oh, just stop what you're doing, because first, I'm a believer that can do this job, so I'm going to do believer things first, and whatever job comes up next is okay. And yeah, I think getting other, I keep saying men because that's just my heart. That's just my target is, I'm in the process of doing the podcast. I've realized I'm trying to talk to my 30-year-old self because I'm not 30. I haven't been for a while. So yeah, to get men to realize that and step up and, like you said, in the sanctification process. And I want guys to be more than just sitting in chairs on Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more to life than that. And it takes being committed and a full-on believer to do it.
Yep.
But anyway, just my thought.
Yeah.
So what else was going on in the Nicaragua? Like, how did it go? What is the report back from the guys that?
Oh, they crushed it.
Yeah, well, figures.
That's not. Yeah, I have I have a very kind of unique missions philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's unique. I don't think it's that unique. But I think, when you kind of it plays out in the real world, it is. I don't know why. But here's what I'll say about it. I've been on dozens of mission trips. I've been all over the world. I've been to places that are amazing, places that are terrible. I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, first world, second world, third world. I've been to all three. And so they're all wildly different. So when it comes to mission trips, another thing I've noticed, because normally it was just me, is kind of Lone Ranger going out and here's where I'm at now, right? Like, if I go somewhere in another country and I'm working with a missionary, I've done stuff with the IMB over in Europe and Portugal and things like that. Like Portugal, I went by myself. I stayed with an IMB family, and they don't normally do that, So it was just like I'm going to come. We're going to do a show, and we're going to share the gospel, and then it's just that kind of repeated. I'm guaranteed a week of fruitful ministry. I have literally set up a folding table in the middle of a street intersection, stood on top, did a magic show for people who literally brought their lawn chairs out in the middle of the street, shared the gospel, and then we're passing out Bibles and we're praying over people. Like, I can do that all day.
Yeah.
However, it got to the point where I'd come home from this high, and I would, I learned that I had to protect my wife and I had to protect American people here from my zeal, because that's not normal for most people.
Right.
And so the typical mission trip is, hey, we're going to come build a house. Hey, we're going to come do VBS.
Right.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to say, we're going to show up, and whatever the missionaries need, that's what we're going to do. So it's kind of rogue in a sense. I have no idea what there is no plan.
Right.
The plan is the Holy Spirit. And so all that to say, my mission trip has become the people I bring. Like, I'm going to be good that week.
Right.
But for me, it's about not feeling alone in ministry, which is something I've struggled with for 20 years, is feeling like, am I crazy? Am I genuinely care. I believe in heaven and hell, but a lot of preachers don't preach it.
Yeah.
They don't preach about it because it's not popular and it bums everybody out. Sin,
Yeah.
And I would literally for years just be like, gosh, sometimes I just feel like I care when someone gets saved, like a lot, and it's almost just like casual conversation. And I don't know, it's weird to me.
I don't think it's weird. I think it's amazing and phenomenal the same time, I know, like, I get you're an evangelist, though. I am not an
Yeah.
evangelist.
Yeah.
I am not an evangelist. That's, the little spiritual gifts tests that you can do.
Yeah.
It's always at the bottom. Always at the bottom. That and anything to do with money. It's always at the bottom.
Yeah.
But teaching and shepherding and things like that near top.
Yeah.
But no, man, I'm kind of right there with you. I feel, personal opinion, when it's people, I'm gonna say like us, because I someone who is that in depth in wanting to fulfill their purpose, I think we do feel alone because we don't feel like other people can catch our vision that God's given us. And at the same time, I think it is kind of a little bit of a lonely road, regardless, because even when you do get those close friends with you, even those really close, because I have some really close ones now, still can't explain the vision that I see of what I think should happen. And I don't know that anyone will ever get it. So, no, I think that's phenomenal. I think that's amazing what you're doing and your approach to it.
That has helped tremendously, is bringing people with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can only explain it so much. Right. I can only describe it so much. And there was a friend of mine who was on the trip. He worded it really well. He said, when I go home, I know I'm going to be trying to get people to feel and see all these things that I had. But for me, it was an experience. And they can't have, like, for them, it's never going to be an experience until they come.
Right.
And that's the disconnect. And so, all in all, though, man, in dozens and dozens of mission trips, this one was my favorite I've ever been on. We took a team of 13 people, and and I've taken teams before, but this one was special because for most of them, it was their first mission trip ever.
Mm-hmm.
For one of them, it was their first time on a plane. Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. And the common denominator was most of them had seen me at an event.
Yeah.
Where my wife and I last year, we just started saying, hey, we're going to go to Nicaragua. This is what we do. If you want to come, message us.
Right.
And people did. And, I'm still not really believing it, And then they're there at the airport, and I'm like, this is real. Like, they're serious.
This is happening.
Like, why did you make this decision? And so it just became real to me because I'm like, oh, I'm responsible for these people.
It definitely got real.
Yes, it got really real. And so, like I said, for them, the mission field is Nicaragua, and it wrecked them. It wrecks everybody, wherever it is, it wrecks people. And for me, the mission field was them. And I'll tell kind of a really cool story that happened that I think just encapsulates how I feel. We went to, I can't give too many details, but we went to one of the hardest places I think you could go. It's a landfill, but there's fires going. So, I mean, like, it's exactly what you imagine.
Right.
It is, you are walking on garbage that is on fire.
Gotcha.
All right. And there's people that live there.
Gotcha.
And so we went in because the missionaries there have forged relationships and kind of gained ground there to be able to go in. It is kind of it is somewhat you have to keep your wits about you, for lack of a better term, right? You have to be aware. And so we went in, and that day it was super windy, so the smoke is kind of blowing uphill. And one of the team guys said, when we were talking about it later, he was like, when I've read in the Bible about Gehenna, he was like, that gave me, like, that was everything that I had imagined, but in real life. I mean, it's hot smoke, so your eyes are burning.
Yeah.
There's ash blowing directly into your eyes, into your mouth, into your nose. You're coughing. It's very difficult to breathe. You are covered in, it was rough. And I went over to we had kind of like a passenger van, and I went over to him and I said, hey, we're going to pass out some juice. We're going to pass out some cookies. We're going to try to round up as many as we can. I'm going to do a show for him, try to get them laughing, because there's kids here, Yeah. I'm going to try to do something. And this is going to be hard. So I think what I said was, this is going to suck. And I said, if you need to stay on the bus, just stay. Like, it's okay. As a matter of fact, like, that's all we're doing. You can watch through the window. Like, it's not a big deal. I made it easy for them, right? And so I went out and I'm doing the show and all that. And previously, the night before when we were decompressing, I had opened up to them and shared how it was very healing for them to be there, because I felt alone in ministry. And the metaphor I used was, it's like I'm on a battlefield during an active war, and I'm looking at all of these guys that I look up to, John MacArthur's, Paul Washer's, Elliott's, the Jonathan Edwards, like all of these people who are kind of up ahead, these valiant warriors. Right. But then I look behind me, and sometimes it just feels like there's no one. And it feels like I can see the front line, and it's just full of cowards. Right. That's the language I use. Right. And that's how it feels a lot of times. So I had shared that the night before. So we're at this place, and this cool thing happened. I'm kind of like soft pedaling it. It was a big thing for me. Right in the middle of the show, I am dying. It's wild. And so I look over my shoulder, and every one of them are behind me. We must have been out there for 20 minutes, and let me tell you, it felt like an hour.
Really?
No one stayed in the van.
Yeah.
And we got back that night, and I was like, okay. Okay. And all of them are like, that was terrible. Like, I hated that. But that was a huge moment for me. And yeah, in a nutshell, like that's really stuck with me. Because God used them to minister to me, even though, I'm there to minister to them.
Right.
Right. So.
No, that's amazing. You're giving me like goosebumps just because I'm picturing that whole moment. I know I can't put myself in the actual place, but no, my mind's wandering, and it's.
Hey, I'm still in the wreckage of it, man. It's mild.
That seems like that would be a monumental event that would probably stick with you the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's been a whole lot of other things that have come from it, and I'll be totally honest with you. Like, I was nervous about doing this because I was like, man, I'm going to be too intense, or I'm going to be too solemn or stoic, and so I've just been in the wreckage of it because I got back Saturday.
Oh,
so I've been home a week, and I've already gone and done an event between then, So, but I'm still in the wreckage of it. Yeah. Some switches have been flipped for me. I just one of the big ones is I some of the team, again, these are people that saw me in an event, and my thing is first in, last out, and so almost every event that, like, every time a church brings me out and we partner and we do a big outreach thing, I'm usually the last to leave because after the show I'll just hang out with students, college students, adults, whomever wants to talk, and I'm always doing that, and those were the people that came on this mission, or people that I had talked to, and I just was confronted with some really cruel realities of, like, they when someone comes up to me, and I'm noticing them, that's huge. I don't think we often think about how big of a deal it is. And I say this on stage now, but like the most powerful thing you can do is to see someone. Because so many people feel invisible. They feel unheard. Right?
Yep.
And it doesn't take much. And like, this group, they're sharing their testimonies, and I'm just like utterly wrecked, because I guess, everybody struggles with things, but it brought it right face to face with me of like, really, like you, then, you were struggling then with that.
Yeah.
And it's wrecked me.
I say this almost every episode. We have one of the pastors at our church, Roy, and I feel like I'm picking on Roy every episode, but it's just because he helped bring something out of me of, his big thing, because he's a counseling pastor, is teaching everyone to be curious about the next person.
Yes.
And in my
that's right.
in my process of getting to where I am now, I was always feeling that alone mentality. And it wasn't until I got that concept. Like I said, I blame him sometimes, but it's not blaming him. He literally just stirred something up in me that was already there. God created me this way, and it brought it out. But I realized that I feel less alone when I'm curious about the next person, which totally plays into this whole podcast thing. Like, I didn't realize I was like halfway where I am now with the whole podcast is like digging in and understanding and listening to others people talk about themselves is like the most fulfilling thing for me right now. Like, you're sitting here, Tony, you're hearing all these stories. Man, I'm going to be done. I'm going to be pumped up when this episode's over and we're done recording. And getting, and going back to the leading leaders is trying to get other people to understand that just asking questions and listening to the question without thinking about the next question.
Yes.
Yeah. No, because they already have a preconceived, I gotta ask this, I have to ask this. And it's like, no, just listen to what they're saying and take it in.
I teach an evangelism workshop when they'll let me. I actually did it whenever I was in Louisiana.
Oh, nice.
And it's one of those things where like when you think of evangelism, people tend to go towards apologetics, right? There's nothing wrong with that,
right?
But that's niche.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, that's actually very niche.
Okay.
Because most of the people that I've met as an evangelist are not. Their issue is not intellectual. Their issue is emotional, right? It's all 9 out of 10 times, maybe more than 9 out of 10 times. It comes from a hurt, not like this. The science says anyway. So all that to say, I teach just like training for how to share your faith. It's just 3 simple rules, but they're so simple it almost feels silly. But that's one of them. Is can you just listen?
Yeah.
Can you have a normal conversation with somebody? Because what happens is a lot of evangelism. So this is a hot take. I'm in seminary.
Right.
I'm trying to be in seminary.
I'm in seminary right now.
I'm in seminary as fast as I can pay for it. And so, but it's a Southwestern in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I took a contemporary evangelism course, and I'm not going to name the professor, but I disagreed with like almost everything that he said, like totally, because it's so much evangelism is like Jesus is like this thing that you're wearing on your belt, like this tool. He's the tool, right? And you're waiting for the right moment to take it and put it and like use it. And Jesus is supposed to be your identity. So he's not something about you.
Right.
or something you wear, right? Mm-hmm. He's part of who you are.
Exactly.
So the question I ask is, do you talk about TV shows? Yeah, of course. Why? Why do you talk about TV shows? Because you watch them, right? Okay. Do you talk about music or sports? Yeah, of course you do. Why? Because you listen to music and you watch sports, right? That's so weird. So why don't you talk about Jesus? Yeah. So maybe because you don't actually spend time with him. So I have shared the gospel thousands of times. All right. Mm-hmm. I can count on one hand the number of those times I planned on it. It just comes out. Right. Like, you can't talk to me for more than 3 minutes without realizing, oh, this is a crazy guy. Like he's
one of those people.
He's one of them. Yeah. You know, not because I'm like sitting there pretending to listen and waiting for the right moment to Jesus juke you. You know, like I love the joke, right? I love the joke. Is that coffee hot? You know what else is hot, right? Hell. What? Dude, why are you weird? It's just a normal person. Anyway.
I don't really know that one, but I got you.
We all know. We all know who. Bless his heart. Yeah. Right. But you know, just it should be part of who you are, and it should naturally come out the same way that you make a joke from The Office. You know, if you watch The Office, that's one of my love languages. It's quoting TV shows.
I don't watch The Office. Sorry.
Well, you know, most people do.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the people that don't. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I don't judge.
It's okay.
But you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I love Tactics by Gregory Kukul. Yeah. If you haven't read it, I tell everybody it's like $7 on Amazon. Buy it yesterday because he is a apologetics titan. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like up there with Craig, with like Frank Turek, William Lane Craig, all those guys. But the whole book is he's like, you do not have to argue people into heaven because you have the truth. Yeah. The truth does its own job. So he's literally like, just listen and ask questions. I mean, and it's the equivalent of handing them shovels. Yeah. You just hand them shovels.
Yeah. And teaching someone to be self-aware, to dig into their own, what they believe, I think is way more powerful than me saying, hey, you need Jesus. You should go to heaven because you should believe in Jesus. You got to dig in and see what's the root cause that I'm not turning to Jesus so that I can turn to Jesus. Yeah.
That was a tangent. I probably went off on I forgot how I can't trace the trail back, man. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. No, and kind of a little convicting. I appreciate that. Well,
I'll build you.
Yeah. No, because I don't, and I can talk to the people I know. Again, I think this goes back. My excuse of not being evangelistic is I have a hard time striking up conversations, but at the same time, it's as simple as, "Hey, how are you doing? What's going on in your life?" I get that.
Yeah.
And but I know I don't do it enough. So thank you for bringing that on.
I just don't think we talk about it. And I think when we do talk about it, like shameless plug, right? Yeah. I love doing my evangelism workshop because it's so simple and you don't have to be an evangelist. Every single person can do it that day, starting that day. It's not apologetics. You know, it's not about like, I got tattoos. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because I'm weak. I got them for me, but God has used these tattoos. Look at that. I mean, just 2 circles on your wrist. Yeah. You know how many times I've been asked, why do you have circles on your wrists? By random people, multiple times a day, for years. That's it. Yeah. It's always inconvenient. It's always at the worst time. You know, I've been asked at toll booths in my car, why do you have circles on your wrist? I kid you not. Yeah. So, you want to share the gospel more, just get a big old tattoo. Well, you know.
Well, and so okay, I'm going to tell you my own thing here. So I don't know if you see my shirt here.
Oh yeah,
okay,
that's nice.
So it stands for what you see is what you get. Yeah,
what you see is what you get.
So what you see is what you get at Hope Over Coffee. So that's the kind of lifestyle I want to live. I'm the same on this camera as I am at work, church, everywhere. I want to be this. I want to be my identity in Christ everywhere I go. But I done forgot where I was going with that conversation.
It was a shameless plug.
It's a shameless plug. Yeah, go back to it. What was I really going to say with that?
Where can we get that shirt?
Man, if you go to the Hope Over Coffee website, there's a link that says store. And you can go buy one.
I'll wear mine too.
Yeah. I'll wear mine too. I love your logo, man.
Thanks, dude. There's the back.
Yeah.
My wife designed it. It's pretty
nice. I love your logo.
Thank you. Did I explain that when you were there?
If you did, I don't remember it.
So this is the logo that you see you're on the internet, and there's something considered graphic content. It'll blur it out, and this is what you see. And I noticed that because, like, for instance, news websites, if they have like some kind of a picture from like a war zone or whatever like that, it'll blur it, and then it'll show this logo, and it'll say sensitive content, graphic content. Are you sure you want to see it? You click yes.
Yeah, so, you want to see it. That's why I went here.
And it occurred to me that, well, this is another hot take, right? But it occurred to me that you could say just about anything you want until you mention Jesus, and then too far.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. Or hell or sin or any of that. And so I was like, when we were trying to think of what symbol do we want to use? Like, what really do we stand for? The gospel is graphic content that people do not want to see or hear. And many churches even blur it out to make it more palatable, to make it easier to swallow. So it's like, hey, we'll tell you how Jesus is love, but not how he's justice. Yeah. Right? We'll tell you about heaven and how wonderful and how prosperous it is. Yeah. But not the
hard things.
Sin part. Yes.
Yeah, we're called to do hard things, not just watered down gospel.
Yeah. We're not trying to slap Band-Aids on cancer here.
No. Some guy I listen to, I think he says, you're not putting Band-Aids on bullet holes. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, well, I like that better.
Yeah. I think I remember what I was trying to circle back to. You're talking about just conversations, and I'm watching those videos of the street preachers or the people protesting whatever, and just these arguments, because you're talking about the arguments to win somebody to Jesus. And I'm like, man, just ask them a question. Why do you believe what you believe that is so opposed to this? And you could get so in depth as to why they're really doing what they're doing.
I would love it if more of those guys sold their megaphone and then use that money to take out the person with pink or orange hair to coffee, and then find out a problem and then solve the problem.
Yeah. Or even holding this space where you can't solve the problem, but you start building a relationship. And even if they never come, but you still are investing in people, because that's what Jesus did. He took the time at the wrong time, actually on the way to go bring somebody back to life. Hey, hang on a second. I gotta do this first. And I think, man, where America is, I think he showed that example. We're just, man, we're watered down where we can't.
Real comfortable.
Yeah, we can't even handle the hard things of third world countries. Which, I can't say this from experience because I haven't been anywhere. Actually, the only place I've ever been out of the country was Korea, and it was in Seoul, so it wasn't like hard. It was just another country. And I don't do a lot of inner city stuff, but I would venture to say, probably put money on it, that some third world countries are way harder than even inner city, big cities. And man, just people don't don't get it. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I get it. I know where I live. I know the luxuries that I have,
Right.
and I am thankful for them.
Hey, April 5th to the 7th.
April 5th.
You're welcome to come, bro. Like,
where y'all
I'm a
going?
liability. It will be the Indiana Jones mission.
So I was actually supposed to go on a trip to, I can't remember where, but it just so happened COVID hit. Like we were gearing up. Like the meetings were about to start, trying to find the money, and then like the world got shut down, and I never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And I say a fear, which I guess God could solve that problem too, is I have sleep apnea. So like if I don't have a sleep machine,
wow. Oh,
yeah. If I'm a week away, I'm going to be dead by the end. That's dead. Yeah. I don't sleep well.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that is interesting.
So that, I know in good places that there's power. I think they're trying to convince me to go somewhere else. If you're
looking for those rough conditions, you don't have to go out of the country. There's California. So
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
My wife's not here to give me the make those jokes.
Well, I mean, even where I live, there's homeless people. Literally driving down the interstate the other day, and there was on the side of the interstate in this weird, awkward, wide open place. And I'm like, they need something. And I'll say, there's been multiple times where I've helped people, random people, and letting them in my car. And my wife is like, what are you doing? Why do you keep letting people in your car? I'm like, because I actually hit his bike with the card. He needed a ride. But
wow.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Yeah, I mean, and going, I'm gonna circle back even further of talking about how easy it should be to just have conversations and ask questions and get to know people. Going back even into the discipleship, man, I think discipleship should be like breathing. It's not a program. It's not an end goal. It's literally just doing life together well enough to where we both want to be like Jesus. And I want you to come with me.
Yeah.
And like trying to do that daily is not always great. I think I fail a lot at it, but yeah, that's. I feel like our heart's in the same direction, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for sharing all of that. It's been an encouragement. Which it usually is whenever I do these. Anybody that comes on, hearing their story, I find tidbits of something I needed, and probably tidbits that somebody else is going to need to hear from your story.
Yeah. That's our number. I mean, that's our number one goal. It's kind of maddening, that so many people don't see their need for discipleship. Like you talked about earlier, and that's been for my wife and I. For me, it's been sort of the biggest struggle of my life. It's kind of the defining thorn in my side, if you will. Is we're always the initiators. Like I'm the guy that shows up to your small group and is like, let's be friends, like I'm like, let's play basketball, or like, you guys want to go see a movie, or you want to do this, you want to do that, and like I'm just that guy who's constantly initiating, and it is hardly ever reciprocated, and I take it personally because I'm like, man, like, and so we've prayed for years, and I want that for my wife too. I want her to have women, if I'm traveling, she normally will come with me, but like this past week, she wasn't able to come with me because she was just tired from Nicaragua. Stayed home, and it was like, man, it would be cool if there were women that could, I don't know, bring her coffee, or just, hey, I want to hear about your trip. Yeah. So we moved to Texas for that reason, because there's more people, and there's tons of people, there's tons of community here. and it's still a long battle, but like, just finding our sending church. And I don't mean a building. I don't even necessarily mean a congregation, but like finding the people who see us as ministers, who will pray for us, who will, like, when we have a need, they're like, yeah, I'm in, I'll give to that. If we say, hey, we're going on a mission, they'll go, or they'll scholarship, like, or even just hanging out with us while we're home.
Yeah.
That's been tough. And so it's interesting how you're kind of in one boat or the other.
Yeah.
You're either, man, people, like, guys need discipleship. They need community. But then you have someone like me that just can't seem to find it.
Man, I wish, I don't want to say I wish I lived in Dallas, because I don't. I wish you lived down here.
Yeah.
I think we'd be friends. I think we'd be really tight.
Of course.
Yeah, just because I've been through, a couple small groups, different men's groups, and there was a couple examples of groups that I've been in that we had that, and it's hard getting back to that place in another group. And we literally live life together. I tell this to people all the time. When their kids had ball games or whatever, we all went. We went to go watch their kid play ball.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, call and tell me, hey, I'm moving tomorrow. I need some help. Come over.
Yes.
And all right, let's go. Stuff like that. That's absolutely a direction that I head in also. And I agree with you. It's difficult to find that level of commitment in everyone. To say, I'll put it that way.
It's been fun on top of being missionaries, right? To the United States. If we were going somewhere else, if we were, we were called to go to Korea, like you mentioned, I think it would be easier in a lot of ways for people to get on board with that. But it's, I think it's just because, like, we're so outside of the box. It's hard. Like, people think we go on vacation. Yeah. Like, I just travel the world doing magic shows, all these exotic places. And I'm like, Iowa? I think you have a very different perspective. And, it's like, we'll do fundraising, and it's even that's hard. Cause it's like, you're going to go, do a magic show. And it's like, well, no, we're going to share the gospel. Anyway. So there's a lot of things involved in that, where people just don't know, what discipleship looks like. They don't know what community should look like.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's where my mindset came from was, doing a discipleship group with, Ren, and just learning everything you learned to get to this point, and looking back, and like you said, you pick up on things and you think it should be done a certain way. But you look at Jesus, and he had us 3. He had 12, but he had us 3. And I love my 3. That's what I need. I need my 3. We can venture out to the 12, but as Ren once told me, he was like, you can't disciple 12 people. It's impossible. Yeah. Jesus did it, and they still got it wrong. Like, and his whole ministry that he was there, they still didn't get it. So, we need our 3. We gotta have our 3.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've enjoyed it. I wish we would live closer together. I want to be your friend.
Cajun food, bro. Hey, trust me, I wish too.
I don't know where to go from here. Is there anything else you want to share? And not saying that we've got to be done, but I always ask everybody that comes on, if there's one thing you'd want someone to get, just if you could pick one, what would it be?
To get, to understand,
to just the one tidbit of knowledge that you wish someone would just grasp. I know we just talked about a whole lot of stuff, and you probably would say one of those things, but if there was like one point you'd want to emphasize, what would it be?
Okay. I'll go with it. I'll go with it. Jesus says that the gate is narrow, that it is very difficult to pass through. And John Piper, his sermon about seashells really goes in line with that. And if there's one thing that I wish most people would get, is that there is so much that does not matter. It's like we spend our whole life building sandcastles on the beach, and it's like the tide is coming in is pointless, right? Like it does not matter. I've been convicted of this, and I wish this is something that I think if we could all be convicted of this heavily, that the things that are eternal are relationships, souls, the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with TV or music or having fun. Like I make jokes. I go out and we'll work out at the gym. I do all those things.
Right.
Okay. But when it's your whole identity, it's like when you know more about Jesus than you know him directly, right. That's when it becomes a problem. And so I would challenge people to look at your life and kick over sandcastles.
I like it.
Yeah.
Dust,
it's dust.
Yeah. In my journey, I've learned to like this guy called Larry Crabb, Dr. Larry Crabb. He was a Christian counselor. As you can tell, I'm a very relational person. I like relationships. Being that he's a counselor, he once gave an example of one of his sessions that in relating with people and getting them to make that point that you're talking about. He didn't really say it in this way, but I'm kind of piecing together, taking what he said and take what you said, kind of put together. It's helping someone get to the point where the only answer to every deep hurt and issue in life is Jesus. It's well, I don't have this. Well, it's because you need Jesus. Well, this is blah 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 in my life. Well, we need Jesus, because when we can grasp those, like you said, that thing, there's so many temporal things that it don't matter. It's relating with the other people that are going to be in eternity, and we are,
and that goes for like good and bad things. There's good things that don't matter, but also so many problems just don't matter. Like I know it feels like it matters in the moment, but it doesn't. Yeah. It will go.
I think it all goes back to we all have a pride issue. Because we all want it our way, and when it doesn't go our way, well, then it matters to us. And when it does it really matter? Not really.
Yeah.
But awesome.
Yeah. That'll be my thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I like I said, I don't know where else to go from here. This is actually kind of short. Usually I've been getting like an hour and a half, 2 hours of stuff.
Had enough.
But I mean, if there's nothing else you want to share, we can call it here. If there's something else you want to get, I got all day. Today's my day off. Yeah. So I can sit here.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, because I don't ever go in with a plan or like a speech prepared unless I'm preaching on Sunday. So for me, it's like,
what?
Yeah, I'm honestly more of a probably reactionary.
But and
like I just
that's one of the things I've actually learned in my last job, the job I currently have. Walking into it, and I've really stressing to me and getting me to understand is you're not in control. Don't try and take control, and let's just go. And when I'm going to show you the land that I promised you. So we're just going to head that direction, and when we get there, I'll let you know. And letting go of things has been really hard for me. But getting better at it, and going back to what's really important is it having all the answers to all the issues in all the places, or is it just take the issue, let's deal with the person, let's talk to them, and then let's just move on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a life lesson I'm in the process of learning. Wow. Well, man, I appreciate you. I love your story. I love what you're doing. I love your thought processes. I love your mind. I love you as a brother in Christ. Awesome.
Like the nicest someone's been in a minute.
Like I said, man, if we were closer together, I'd want to be your friend. I'd want to find you.
That's good. Thank you.
We'd hang out.
We're not that far. Smoke to Boudin is the way to my heart.
Well, hey, okay, so
True.
in next February, we're going back to the XO conference in Dallas. Maybe we can hang out. Maybe.
Yeah.
I can convince my wife. Be like, hey, you want to hang out?
Also, if there's any churches in South Louisiana,
we need to hear some evangelistic gospel.
I
They need to call you.
Yeah, people wait last minute, and it's like, gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah,
like I have mine. So next spring and summer is madness.
Really?
Hey, this is something I'll say. Shameless plug. Total madness, because I got invited to several conferences and camps where I'm just speaking. I'm the speaker, and I'm so thankful for that because like, we want to make sure that, again, we're not just entertaining,
right?
Like, and so I'm super thankful that God has given me those opportunities because I need to get better. I want to get better. I need all the practice I can get. And so this spring has been nutty because we just got back from Nicaragua where we took a team. We're going to Athens and we're going to do like Muslim apologetic ministry, but it's just me.
Okay.
And that's in Greek. So it's like there's a ton of stuff going on, but from July to January, no idea. And so we're literally praying like, okay, God, like, what do we do here? Going on? We're so we're kind of going to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. We're going to do fundraising campaign. I'm going to try to write. Let's see what happens. And then we're like, okay, Sunday morning, Wednesday nights, where it's just speaking. I need practice, So like all of those things, we're literally, people say, oh yeah, we live by faith, right? No, for 11 years, I don't have an agent.
Yeah.
We're not a business, we're a nonprofit ministry. We pray and God rescues. Basically month to month. 11 years.
That's some faith there. That has some faith right there. I don't.
Faith and crippling fears.
But like I said, I didn't think we were done. I didn't know we were done. We're not done. No, like again, listening to you, and I get that from just my perspective of doing this podcast. Of the more I do it, the easier it gets. Until the easy is easy, and then I feel like God's like, okay, you got that easy down. Now I need to make you uncomfortable again. So let's start getting you ready for the next step, because I'm going to make you uncomfortable and go do this thing. So I'm getting real comfortable in it, in this setting, in this environment, and I'm kind of like, okay, what's the next thing? Is it going to be big in public? Is it going to be just being out of my comfort zone, leading leaders? And also on that same note, me and my wife, we're both remarried. We're the second marriage, and going to the marriage conference. We love the marriage conference. The XO marriage conference is phenomenal. We love it a lot. It's one of our non-negotiables in our life. That's one of our trips every year, is going just together, spend time, work on each other, and then come back to real life. But through that, we both feel like the Spirit kind of pricked our heart on being a marriage mediator, and it's almost like learning how to help marriages in that last ditch effort of hey, either we do this or we get divorced kind of thing is how I understand it. So that could be the next thing, because that's uncomfortable, and it goes into one of those thoughts of, what do I know? I mean, I know we can teach you things, but it's like, I know he qualifies this, but man, I feel so underqualified. But at the same time, I also tell you, I was telling somebody on another episode of, man, you're married and you can listen. What else is there other than, if you're trying to help somebody that's married, you are married and you got problems, talk about them and listen to what they're doing, what they're going through. And that might be all they need. Who knows?
Yep.
But yeah, like just bringing out the uncomfortable in us is, I think, one of God's most frequent gifts is getting us out of our comfort zone. And man, for you, I kind of figured that this was your full-time gig, quote unquote gig, is going around the country, out of the country, whatever, doing this. And I kind of wondered what that was like for y'all.
Well, it's not glamorous. Well, I will say this: we're the only, to my knowledge, we're the only ones doing it the way we're doing it. So we're not, we've had a lot of people tell us this isn't, this is not the way that, I would, but I'm just not, we just don't feel called to do it as this entrepreneurial business. I have a board, and I have people that speak into it and all that. But the priority is ministry. And sometimes that means the bottom line is not financial. Right. Yeah. Well, obviously, we're not struggling or anything like that, but we are. It is. Yeah, it's very prayer filled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I say I don't have that kind of faith. I don't feel like I have that kind of faith, but at the same time, I'm sure. So this marriage mediation thing, it's like to go through the class, it's like $4,000. Mm-hmm. Well, $3,000, $3,500, and then just going up to Dallas for the 2 days you gotta go do. Yeah, it's like, God, I don't have an extra $3,500. So if you want me to do this, we're gonna have to provide it. And like,
here's a real life example from my own life that, man, I don't know if this is going to discourage you or encourage you. Well, I'll tell you. So, my wife, she used to work for Chick-fil-A, and she's kind of like a big, higher. It wasn't like for Chick-fil-A; it was just for one store, but each store is its own like multi-million-dollar thing. It's crazy. So, and we lived in Ohio for 6 years, could not find community, and it just got to the point where it was like she was done. She was like, "All right, let's just go." And so we moved to Texas on a whim, we've been doing it. But she works from home. She now does social media for 5 Chick-fil-A stores across the United States. And it's not like this huge business thing. It's kind of like a side hustle, like part-time thing. And so, but in the past, like 2 months, again, this is our busiest spring ever. Okay. So the reality is like, I literally can't go and get like a part-time job. Like, we live down the street from Buc-ee's. You know about Buc-ee's? Yeah. Like, I can't even go to Buc-ee's and get a part-time job because I would have to cancel the events and the shows that I already have. It's like so God hasn't even allowed me to do that. It's not possible until like July, right? And so my wife lost a huge client that was like the majority of her clients. And then we got hit with a tax bill that was $4,000 higher than we expected.
Done that too.
Oh yeah. And all that to say, so this was a cool. Well, I don't know if it was cool, but it was just like I had to drop my classes for summertime for seminary because it was the same amount as the tax.
Right.
So when I prayed as I was talking to God about it, I was like, man, okay. You must have known that going on the missions that I had and how wrecked I am right now and how I still have much more to do. I'm doing a summer camp, I'm going to Greece. I'm doing several other events. You must have known that it was going to be too much for my plate, and you forced me, because I'm never going to be that guy. I'm like, let's go, figure it out. I'll stuff her silently. He must have known that, and he must have done what was best for me, right? And so that was the outlook. That was the outlook on it, and that's the outlook on all of it, right? So that's sort of how we navigate our life. Is the bad things may not necessarily be bad things.
Right.
It might be God just knowing best.
Absolutely. No, that's encouragement. And
all right, good.
No, I already kind of know that. We've had similar situations where finances planned for something and totally random event happened that if we wouldn't have had the money that we're going to spend on something else, then it wouldn't have been spent over there that took care of things. And no, it is. And I'm trusting and waiting and believing that it's going to, if that's what he wants us to do, there's going to be a time and a place, and it's just going to happen. And
if nothing happens, then go get the job at Buc-ee's, right? It's that simple.
Yeah. So I think they pay good from what the sign says. I mean, it's all right.
They're like 18 an hour. Yeah.
Oh, we love Buc-ee's.
I'm a simple man.
No, yeah, I've been on this journey of learning the sonship that we are to our Heavenly Father, and trusting that He does want the best for us, and He does. In the middle of our storms doesn't mean that He doesn't love us. It's just that we're in the middle of the storm, and what are we going to look like on the other side of it?
Mm-hmm.
And usually, I'm going to say usually, we come out the other side. If we learned what He wanted us to learn in the middle of the storm, we come out different, and our faith is greater, and we hit the next storm with even better faith than we had the first time. So, I don't know, and it's life is life, and it is what it is, and when it happens, we'll go do it and try and serve Him the best we can, and hopefully impact somebody else's life and marriage, and want to just point people to Jesus. So,
yeah, man, I'm glad that was encouraging.
No, I totally get it. I know those things, and right now, even with the podcast, the kind of reminder that I have to have is, I'm gonna read it. Got my Bible right here. I don't drop it. I don't want to mess it up.
This feels like a good way to stake
it with
the flag
right here. Yeah.
With God's word.
Yeah.
I like it.
Let's see. 1 Peter or 2? I think it's 2 Peter. Yeah. 2 Peter 1:13. He says, I consider it right, as long as I am in this earthly dwelling, to stir you up by way of reminder. And 14 says, knowing that laying aside my earthly dwelling is imminent, as our Lord Jesus Christ has made it clear to me, and I also be diligent that at any time after my departure, you'll be able to call all these things to mind. We're forgetful people. We are super forgetful people. I think about when they went through the Red Sea, they literally built all, golden calf, and like you literally just saw water's part, and we forget. I need reminders. Anyone reminded me, which ties into this podcast here lately is the reason I'm doing this. I want to remind people of who they are in Christ and stir something up with them. As long as I'm here and as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to stir something in somebody. Draw a step one step closer to Jesus, and that's the goal. Until either He comes back or we're done breathing. That's where we're headed. So,
yeah.
Well, man, again, I appreciate your time. I know your time's valuable. We're already like an hour and a half in, and I know you got a busy life and you got things to do. I appreciate it. I thank you so much for your story. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for your ministry. And I just pray that God's going to, well, we know He's going to take care of you, but that when you get those end of the year whatevers, that it's going to be good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, all right. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. If people want to know more, reach out. You can find me on Instagram. Got a website.
You also have a YouTube channel as well. But remember, right? Are you used to?
I do. I do. Okay. Yeah, but that's where the viral videos are.
Okay.
With that blue. I was on Good Morning America. You can go watch. I Proposed to My Wife. If your listeners want to go watch that.
I've seen a couple of your perceptions on there.
Yeah. The thread is on there. There's a video that's called The Scarlet Thread. And that's a good, if anybody's wondering, well, how does this work? How does this go together? How is this a ministry? I think that's probably the best video to go see, because it's a really old 500-year-old illusion that I took from a book in the 1600s, and then I adapted it to create a visual gospel.
Nice.
And so it's called The Scarlet Thread. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, that was good. I thoroughly enjoyed when you did that for us.
I don't know if that'll show up, but that's my Instagram.
Sean Emory.
And my name. Yep, that's what it looks like. So, yep. And then SeanEmory.com.
There you go.
You can email me.
Yeah. He needs some gigs.
Yeah.
But hey, don't do anything God does by telling you to do.
That's right.
All right, man. That's all I got. I want to thank everybody for watching and tuning in, and go check out Sean's website, Instagram, and YouTube. And I'll see y'all next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Hope Over Coffee podcast. If this story has touched you and you know someone who would benefit from it, please share it with them through one of the many platforms Hope Over Coffee is available on. Hope Over Coffee can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and several other platforms. If you'd like to stay connected and become a part of the community, you can find Hope Over Coffee on the Band app by searching Hope Over Coffee on the band.us website. Thanks once again for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to sharing another cup of coffee with you next time.